the coaches during these events in all of our sports. And we'll get started with Jonathan here in a moment. A quick note, speaking of football, the football season ticket deadline has been extended. It was originally at the end of March. That's been extended through the 15th of May. That's 1 week from tomorrow. And during the course of our virtual state tour event tonight, you will have an opportunity, a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screens. You can use that to ask questions as we go. Over the course of the evening, we'll have a couple of poll questions as well that'll pop up on your screen, and we'd appreciate your participation in that. And speaking of appreciation, perhaps now more than ever, with the job that he is attempting to conduct with all of the challenges inherent to get us started tonight, it is a pleasure to welcome the Vice President and Director of Athletics in his 4th full year in that capacity. And he indeed is experiencing these unprecedented times as the head of this department. It's my pleasure to welcome Scott Barnes to the first ever virtual Beaver State Tour. Good evening, Scott. How are you today?
We're doing great. I miss you, my friend, and miss all of Beaver Nation. It's great to at least be in a Zoom room with nearly 500 of you. We miss you all very much.
Thank you, Scott. And also joining us, and he'll be here throughout the hour, we've got some special guests coming up on this first ever event. It's my first ever experience in this format. I've not been a veteran Zoomer. This is my first Zoom experience. You must imagine how I feel getting to Zoom for the first time. A guy that's been doing a lot of that lately with his players and his staff. Let's welcome in Oregon State head football coach Jonathan Smith to the event tonight. Coach, good evening. How are you? You're a veteran Zoomer. How's life going for you?
It is going good, and I've definitely, in a short amount of time, gotten better and better at Zoom because I've been on this thing quite a bit, actually multiple times today already. So it's good to join you.
Well, we want to get a lot of questions to you guys. Scott, I want to start with you, and thank you for getting us rolling in this first ever virtual state tour. Just because it's top of mind, earlier today there was a statement released about a phased reopening, different phases from the governor. I don't know how much that impacts you. You hear the news. You have plans going on all the time about trying, in conversations and Zoom teleconferences with your colleagues and commissioners and many, I'm sure, people involved. So how did you react to that news, and did it materially affect what your plans have been anyway as we try to prepare for football in 2020?
Well, yeah, Mike, we're all aligned. The commissioner's commitment to Oregonians, their health and safety is something we all respect, and we're planning different scenarios. Not playing early in the year is one of them. Playing later into the year, so lots of scenarios on the table. This one is, this would be a challenge, something we've got to mitigate. But one of the things I'm learning, I think we're all learning, is that as fluid as information is coming and is changing, the most informed decisions we can make are a little later, because we tend to get more and more information. So, this will evolve like everything else has, Mike, and we'll continue to plan for that going forward.
Jonathan, from your world and your standpoint, there's so many things out of all of our control, almost everything. So you can only do the things you can do as the head coach of the program now. Are you even thinking about what 2020 football in September, or what that might look like? Or are you just trying to take it on a day-by-day basis, the challenges right now today on your plate?
Yeah, we actually had a team meeting today over Zoom and talked about that exact thing of, we're in a tunnel right now. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We just don't exactly know how long this tunnel is going to be until we start playing some football games. What we can control right now is currently this month. We know exactly what the month of May is going to look like from the NCAA end, and we're going to finish our classes the way we're doing it, and do it at home with working out and things. And so just encouraging our guys to dive into the day-to-day. Right now, we know what the best thing we can control is the type of shape we're getting into, handling business in the classroom. Been meeting 2 to 3 times a week with their position coach, talking about the scheme and learning some football. And that's how we've approached it. We're just confident that there will be a football season, and we'll see what it looks like exactly the same. Who knows? But we know we're going to play. We feel confident of that, and we got to be ready when that time comes.
Scott, as you oversee the entire department and listen to Jonathan talk, interact with Jonathan and all of the other coaches and so many other people within the department, just in a big picture, with no playbook ever for this, for you, for anyone, what are your thoughts about how the way Jonathan, everyone else on this campus at Oregon State has responded to these amazing times?
Well, I think, true character and leadership surface in times of crisis. And Jonathan, and I can look down the list of head coaches, they've all stepped up mightily. They've stepped up for the department. They've stepped up for their student athletes, the parents of the student athletes, the fans. So I'm really, Mike, I'm really proud of my staff, and it goes beyond head coaches. We have our exec team, our senior staff. Everybody's doing what they can do to move us forward, given the circumstances we're in, and so I appreciate that. We're all going to come out the other side of this better for it in some form, and that's a mindset we have to have.
Jonathan, I've spoken to several of your players during the last 8 weeks, conducting interviews on our local show in the Mid-Valley, the Joe Beaver Show. We talked to David Morris today, who he just expressed how excited he is for the year, learning Tim Tibesar's scheme, and just so excited. He feels better than he ever has. He's gotten some tools from Coach McDonald and just some things that he's doing. He's healthy. He's excited. He represents everybody on your team, I'm sure. So how have you gone about trying to keep your guys as engaged as possible in terms of conditioning and staying in shape and studying playbooks and staying ready?
Right. There's a lot to that. One word, staying engaged with them. And so we are having position meetings multiple times throughout the week. So the position coach is touching base with his group, going over, like I'm saying, scheme or techniques that we can continue to grow and improve on. Our strength staff has done an awesome job, and they've given highly recommended workouts for these guys to be doing. And then amongst the 5 strength coaches we've got, they've divided the team up, and every coach is touching base with a player on the strength and conditioning then every week. And just to touch base and see how it's going. We got them weight gain, weight loss, checking in on where they're at on the scale toward the end of the week, so we know guys that are gaining or / losing. And so they're getting a lot of support that way. Our academic setup has been very similar in regards to how many times they need to be checking in, and with our advisors, tutors, all that continues to be provided for them. So we got a lot of people touching base with these guys on a weekly basis. And they've been awesome. They really have. They've been engaged. I just got a great report this week. The guys are staying on task for the most part and doing some really good things. And that's why some of the thought of even this week, we tried to change it up on the team meeting. And what we did, we ended up breaking up in 10 different groups with 10 different position coaches. But the position coach's Zoom group did not have any of his particular position. So we were just having other guys that hadn't seen each other's faces for 8 weeks touch base with each other, see how things were going. And so with the circumstances, I do think that the unity, the camaraderie is as good as it can be. And these guys are staying on task for the most part.
Coach, let me follow that up with you use the word unity. The sense of unity that you've been able to foster here and retaining coaches, and you recently promoted Kafense to your passing game coordinator, but to reference Tim Tibesar and a 3rd year now in the scheme, David says he feels like he's got the defense. He just wants to go out and play it. Everyone's challenged in these times, but is your challenge, as great as it is, mitigated a bit by the fact that you've had a common message now from a group of coaches heading into year 3 that helps you get through these times like this?
Yeah, I do think the continuity is something that benefits us during this unprecedented time, because we do got 10 returning coaches that know these players. Our schemes aren't drastically changing. We're definitely trying to make tweaks and improvement. We're not making overhauls of changing one side of the ball of this and that. And so I think it's a benefit, and we're anxious to obviously see how it gets played out in the fall. But with our guys and the relationships they've been able to build with coaches and each other, we've worked a lot on our culture, and we're counting on that paying dividends in the fall.
Scott, we're getting a lot of questions coming in from people that are participating here tonight in this first ever event. We really, for example, this one, it may press you too much, but I'm just going to ask because it came from a great fan of Beaver Nation. Emily McLaughlin asks, do you have to consider a quote drop dead date about 2020 in Beaver football? Are we not there yet?
Yeah, we're not there yet, and it's really going to be predicated on the readiness and fitness level of our student athletes. Obviously, informed by our medical experts, by our local health authorities, and we'll count back from that date. So we know we think we need 6 to 8 weeks of prime time to get them ready, and the football coaches and trainers and medical folks have been involved in that. And then, we need to think about getting them back on campus in a very healthy and safe way, and then you move forward from there. So we don't have that drop dead date in terms of play or not play, and that's really not what we're modeling. What we're modeling, though, is, look, the later that date is in terms of getting them on campus and ready for, say, training camp, the later, obviously, season would start.
Do you, amongst so many stories and things we're reading, Scott, about models and possibilities of going about business, would you ever anticipate playing a game at Reser Stadium with no fans?
It's a crazy time, and that certainly has to be one of the considerations. Probably not without any fans, but potentially limited fans as an example to start, depending on where all this goes. But I think it's prudent of us to look at all options, right? And keeping foremost in our minds the health and safety of the student athletes and their wellness. They want to play, and what we don't want to have happen is what happened in the spring. And you mentioned 2 months ago, man, it seems like 2 years ago when Jared hit that shot, but we certainly want our student athletes to be back in a safe environment to compete. And, we would expect that would be with fans. Absolute measures will be taken in social distancing, from queuing to the concession line to how people get into Reser. That'll be a whole new day for all of us. It will absolutely, we're planning every day on that so that fans can enter safely.
Coach Smith, the 6 to 8 weeks that Scott referenced, David Morris is one of those rare guys. He told us today, look, I can go out and hit somebody right now. I want to. I feel like getting back into that kind of, that's what the beauty of football. And he did that almost a couple of years ago. I hadn't played much, went down on a kickoff team, spilled a guy but generally speaking, that's not easy for everybody. Is 6 to 8, does that sound about right for you, even pushing it closer to that 8-week model to get ready?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, I do think it's almost more than enough. And so when we talk about the 6 and 8 weeks, it's really about, that is the initial arrival of our players, and they haven't done anything with us hands-on. And then if we got 6 weeks, that feels good. But if we had some lead-up time where these guys were able to round on campus, maybe not quite on training camp mode yet, you could look to condense. 6 weeks, I feel very confident that we could get these guys in a physical shape, that they would be safe. Because let's face it, too, we want to have a product out there when we're playing that looks at a high level. And so that takes some time. But I feel really confident that if we had 6 weeks to prep, every school for that matter, we can make it look pretty good.
Scott, speaking of every school, do you feel as though it's every school in our Pac-12 conference, for example, or if one is an outlier and says, well, we don't think we want to do or go or get games going again, are you having conversations along those lines that it could be a Pac-11 or a Pac-10 for 1 year? Is that even on the table?
So, Mike, it's a great question, one that's been batted around. I think there's two different buckets here. One is this training camp and competition, and that's got to be coordinated not only at the Pac-12 level but nationally. That's got to be coordinated. There's competitive equity issues there, all of that. The other piece, though, which is sort of what Jonathan's alluding to, which is this idea of coming back when we can open limited even facilities and start working out. that'll happen at different stages in different states. And even within our state, we're finding that that'll happen at different times in different counties. And so it really should be informed by our local health authorities and our university. And we agree as athletic directors that, look, if Oregon State's ready to open in 2 weeks and Colorado's making it open in 3 weeks, then that should be the prerogative of the institution as it relates to those beginning training opportunities. Now, the camp piece and the competitive piece is different, and I believe, and I think it'll happen, that this will continue to be coordinated nationally. So we roll out at the same time with the same parameters there. But this other piece should be localized. Okay,
local on that level, but you think there will be amongst Division I football, Power 5, Group of 5, whatever. You won't have one conference saying, well, we're ready to go and we're going to start a season, but they may not be ready out there in the West, but we are here. You don't anticipate that kind of disjointed world then?
It'd be the wrong way to go. John can add to this, but no, I think this, we play at a national level. This is we're all in this. And so alignment in that regard, and when we kick off and when we start camp, it's my strong belief that should be and will be coordinated.
Jonathan, any thoughts about, again, this isn't your decision, per se, to say, well, what everybody else in the country is going to do, but are you talking to taking time to visit with colleagues and peers in the profession about how they're navigating the world? And do you feel like what Scott said about we got to kind of come at this in a unified way when we do get going again?
Yeah, I've talked to multiple other head coaches, some in our league, some outside of our league. And we're on the same page there of being unified on the NCAA level. So we're all on the equal playing field. And so we're having conversations that way as head coaches. And it's been great in regards to, especially head coaches outside of our league, to be able to talk to them and how they're going about things and learning from them. And it's been an opportunity to, come across some new ideas. And so that's been a benefit to us. But across the board, I feel head coaches strongly feel that on the Division I NCAA level, we want to be starting at the same time.
Scott, we of course are preoccupied with these types of matters and the world that we're in and hoping to see football return. In the meantime, you're charged to conduct business as much as usual as possible, overseeing all of the sports, making hires. We're excited to welcome later. In fact, let me check my dates. 2 weeks from today, Chris Pendleton will be our guest, a new wrestling coach that has been hired in this time period. And we're going to have an opportunity to interact with all of the coaches along the way. But you've had to try to conduct some business as usual when things aren't usual. How's that going in your world?
Well, it's obviously different, and just connectivity and communication is key in that regard. And so head coaches calls, executive staff calls, text and phone each other as much as we can. I think in some ways we're probably communicating more, and that's good. But you're right, Mike. And all the COVID issues, it's filling up our day. But we have the business of the day to take care of on top of that. And so it in many ways it sort of adds that significant layer to what we do every day. But we're making it. We're finding our way through it.
Let me add to that real quick, Mike, if I can. I will say Scott has been awesome in regards to communicating with us head coaches, and then that trickles down to our assistants. We had a head coaches call earlier this week of just communicating kind of where we're at, some of the topics to be discussed, getting our take, how are things going. He's been phenomenal in this stressful time, to some real leadership to this program, not just football, but all athletics.
And guys, I know that the next person we're welcoming in, we're going to have pop-up special guests along the way on all of these virtual Beaver State tours. And our next guest is what all of this and all of these discussions, it's what it's all about, as we welcome the nation's leader in tackles for loss in 2019, ready to have a huge year coming up. It's an honor to welcome Amica Rashid Jr., as a special pop-in guest on the first ever virtual Beaver State Tour. Amica, good evening. How are you tonight?
Good evening. I'm good. How are you?
Well, good. Where are you coming to us from? How's your time been lately? What's been going on in your life?
What's going on my line? Just consistency working out, staying fit, stuff like that. Still got to, get ready for football season. It's a lot of uncertainty, going on right now in the world. But honestly, I'm in Arizona with my family, spending a lot of time with them and that. But it's going pretty good.
Amica, has there been anything through all of this that's been a blessing to you? Something that maybe because of things being so different that either you're getting to appreciate some new things that maybe wouldn't have come across your path if life were business as usual?
I believe so. Obviously that's like Coach Smith, people that we meet around here is like, it's obviously unique and stuff like that. You just can't create these certain bonds with everybody. So I feel like I've created a lot of bonds around here, and I believe I'll truly admire them as time goes on and stuff like that as we get older.
Jonathan, I got to ask you, and maybe if you want to ask Ham yourself, but when I think about the 2019 season, there's so many great moments, but when a guy like this gets back-to-back 3 sacks games, leads the country in TFLs, third in the nation in sacks, first-team All-American in several sources, and that's what this program is all about, and the year he had was spectacular.
Yeah, he was, I was just really happy for him because he really worked to achieve that. Ham went to work in the offseason. I do think the second year and kind of playing the same position, the same system, and I think Ham would say the same, Coach Tibbs, and adding to his repertoire in the rush, rushing the passer, knowing things in and out. I think Ham's a huge leader on this team, and he goes by example, and when he wants to speak his voice, it's welcomed. And so really proud of the year he had and expecting some really, really big things from him next year. I also give him some credit, too, of the way he approached. He had an opportunity to go play in the National Football League. He really did. And then the time he took to approach it and really make an educated decision to come on back because he had some unfinished business, all of that lends to just how sharp a guy he really is.
Amica, let me ask you a little bit about that, the decision. When you had a chance to maybe embark on a professional football career, and yet here you are getting ready for another year at Oregon State. Tell us how you came to that decision, why you felt it was the right one for you.
It was most definitely a stressful couple of months I went through. I was really frustrated and it was really a tough decision, but I truly believe I made the best decision, I talk to people, people try to get in your ears, do all type of stuff, tell you, oh, you're going to go first round or you're going to do this. You did a great year. You should be this and that. Honestly, I came back, because I feel like a lot of people still sleep on me and don't trust in me and believe in the things I'm going to do. And I'm constantly sitting here ready to prove people wrong. And that's what I'm going to consistently do, continue to do. I put all this work in to do it. So why not do it now? So that's how I feel like, yeah.
Well, hey, Amica, let me, Scott, I want to bring you in for a moment. This is when I say this is what it's all about, this is a young man, an example of what Oregon State athletics. He graduated last May, a year ago, with a degree in public health, and will continue in some graduate studies as he continues on in his career at Oregon State. But he represents, I know how proud you are of that for Amica, what he means, how hard he's worked in the classroom, like so many other student athletes do.
Well, Mike, Ham is a great example. When football's finished for Ham, he's going to be successful in life because he got there the right way. He has leadership and a vision beyond his years in terms of thinking about the future and thinking, in a way that is so mature. And then the work that he took to get to where he is, those things, he'll have that forever. And so we're really proud of him. It's great to hear your voice and see you, buddy. We miss you, and we can't wait to get you back here.
Amica, before we turn you loose, and appreciate you joining us, no one has control over, someone does, but I'm not him, none of us are, over the future and what's next. But how excited are you and the guys to get back on the field for you in year 3 with Coach Tibesar and his system and the knowledge that you've gained, the experience in the system, just what you think may be ahead for you guys on defense in 2020?
Honestly, I feel like the sky's the limit. I always said that, if we put the work in to do it, we could do anything. Why should we listen to anybody that wants to like limit us to their standard or anything? I believe we can do anything, and if we put our mind to it, we put the work into it, the hard work, and we get through all these hardships, I believe we can do anything we can and what we want to do. So I feel like we're not limited to anything as a defense or as a team next year. It's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be a grind no matter what. We're in the Pac-12, and obviously no week is gonna be easy. We gotta grind, we gotta bust our butt off, and that's the great thing about football and stuff like that. You gotta earn it. You gotta actually go out there, put the grind, the sweat, and everything into it. So I feel like I'm ready for it. I'm just so ready for it to actually get back and actually play football. We didn't get to do spring ball, so that actually like hurts my feelings. But then again, I just can't wait for it. I just can't wait. People don't really understand how hype I am.
Well, we get a little bit of a feel for that. When you're done with this particular Zoom call, do you have any Zoom fatigue going on? David Morris told me earlier today, yeah, there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue. How are you doing with
it?
Be
honest, bro. Be honest.
It's stressful. I already went through 4 Zooms today, so it's a part of the life. So I believe I still like it though. It's okay. No complaints, no excuses, nothing. So just gotta do it.
Amica, thanks for jumping on here. We're going to turn you loose to get another workout in or whatever it is you're going to do down in Phoenix. How hot is it today down there? What's the temperature about?
It's like 109 right now outside. So
109?
109. So, yeah, I think it's like 70 right now in Corvallis. So, yeah, it's pretty hot outside.
Well, have a good time in it. Have a good workout. Be careful. Stay hydrated, right, Coach? Hey, Amica, thanks for taking time, man. We really appreciate it. Look forward to see you on the field and having even a bigger year in 2020. Thanks for coming on.
Good seeing you, Ham.
Thank you for having me.
Amica Rashid Jr., what a great young man and a tremendous story, guys. Just a real pleasure to watch him play. Jonathan, we get a text, not a text, that's old-fashioned technology. We have a question from Kent Lee, who writes, Coach, have you read all of those books that are behind you?
Yeah, I've got that a couple of times now. No. Some of them are my wife's books as well. So I got a few to make up. I wouldn't say, I'd say more than half that I've got,
now,
but collected them.
You are getting to, you're working every day on football, but even if you were in quote, a normal world, you read outside of football sometimes, including you were telling Scott was asking you what you're reading. Tell us what you're reading and what you're deriving from a book about Thomas Edison and electricity.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a historical fiction. And so sometimes when you read, you want to take a little break away which I need. I read a bunch of self-help books, right? Because I need a bunch of self-help. And so I try to take a little break away from that and read some of the fiction side. I do enjoy it once in a while. But, of course, you got my boss on the line right here, too, so I don't want to be talking too much about how much reading I'm doing and not working.
Scott, you appreciate that, though. I know in all of the work that's on your plate, you read outside of the day-to-day grind in business. David McCullough, you're reading a book, you were saying, by him. Got another one coming up on Teddy Roosevelt. So that you're looking forward to reading. How important is it just to kind of keep your mind, rather than just stay focused, ultra focused on COVID-19 and all these other issues? Is it helpful to get outside of that sometimes?
I think it has longevity. You absolutely need to find a way to unplug. Jonathan, we could both be doing this 24 hours a day, and unfortunately, sometimes we are. But stepping away, whether it's read a book or in normal times getting on a fly fishing stream or whatever, is really important. We are revved up and rolling most of the year, so to find those windows are really important. And now we got to do a different way. Got to find a different way to get a little bit of relief here and there for sure.
Andy Long writes in on this Zoom experience in our first ever virtual Beaver State tour. Andy writes, Scott, how are the plans for research and the remodel of the west side? How is all of that project, that important project, going through all of this?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's it sort of goes back, and we talk as staff all the time about this. We've got COVID and all the issues that it brings, and we have a strategic plan. We have critical initiatives that need to continue to move forward, and we've got to do all that. And so, Reeser, I'm excited that we're in the early stages of schematic design. We have a design build team on board. We're meeting literally 2 or 3 times a week to get that ready. Funding on the project is solid. There's been a slow. Obviously, there's been a bit of a slowdown in terms of completing some of the funding because of where we sit, and that's just a reality of where we are. But we are moving forward. I like our progress. Right now we're in the middle of programmatic design, so we're getting the user groups in the various areas of the new stadium to inform the programmatic aspect of that, to help inform design. And I like the pace that we're at, and I like where we're heading. So we should be complete with schematic design by early fall. We're on schedule in that regard.
Thank you for that, Scott. A couple of other questions we'll get to in a moment for Scott about name, image, and likeness, senior eligibility, and the great effort. I'd like to get back to you on that for a moment, but we have another very special pop-up guest that we welcome. In fact, he's the subject of this week's Beaver Sports podcast. This week's classic game, now available on the website, is a product of this guy's effort with Sammy Strotter and so many others. The Beavers took it away 4 times, October 8th, 2006. Beautiful day at Reeser Stadium. Beavers 33, number 3 USC 31. And the quarterback who started the game scored. In fact, we have requests, so I'm just going to give it to you here real quick. First and goal from the 3, Matt Moore under center, turn, play action, boot, rolling right, looking toward the back of the end zone. He's going to tuck it and run himself, and Matt Moore is in. Touchdown, Beavers! Okay, that was my request, Matt. And Matt Moore joins us here on the virtual stage tour. Hey, Matt, how are you? Was it something like that? You remember it that way, that first touchdown?
Yeah, something like that. You always bring better light to it, Mike, with your voice and your call. That's good stuff there.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for jumping in here with us to say hi to Beaver Nation. The Beavers, and in your experience, I can tell from the 2 years you were here in 5 and 6, and 06 is one of the great seasons in the history of the program. But somehow the place and you connected. Your brother's here now. Tell us and say hi to everybody in Beaver Nation tonight on this virtual state tour, first stop, what this place has meant to you and why you keep coming back to us.
Yeah, it's incredible. I'm so fortunate and lucky that I ended up there. And I think the thing that makes it special and the thing that attracts me the most to it is the people. I mean, obviously the people that are up here right now. Scott, Coach, how we doing?
Hey, buddy.
I can see you guys. But it's the people in Corvallis. It's the people, obviously, at the university that are involved with the program. It's the guys that I played with, the teammates. I mean, that's just, to me, what really makes it special. And again, you mentioned I come back. I mean, I like to see all those people and keep developing those relationships. And it's just a really special place. You know, you couple that with the football experience that I had, and I just love it. It's a great place to be.
Jonathan, I'll have you. I mean, the fact that Matt is here, it's just, to me, such a cool story that his brother is in the program too. And and I talked to Matt about this on the podcast, that Nick Moore is just a worker, right? He just grinds, keeps getting better every day, finding ways to do that. I know you're happy to have Nick in the program.
There's no question. Nick's one of our most competitive guys on this team now. Had a blast, even just this last fall when we get out there and we get into some team periods where we just put the ball down and play, not scripted, trying to move the ball, and him doing his doing his thing at quarterback in regards to communication at the line of scrimmage and extending the play. So he's a blast, man. He loves this game. Even Coach Langer talks about it in the meetings, of just being dialed in, asking questions, bringing life to the meeting. So he's a great asset to the program.
Matt, you see all of that too, don't you? I mean, I asked you how much football stuff you're doing as you're you're a free agent looking for the best opportunity to keep your career going. You were honest enough to say, not a whole lot right now, but Nick's working, right?
He 100% he is. And we talked about this the other day. I mean, him and I would assume all, the rest of these college athletes, in this situation are doing the best they can and to be ready to go, whenever that happens. And we don't know. So I think that's the mentality, and Coach hit on the competitiveness. I mean, I think that's just kind of what fuels him, and him and anybody else, I think they just want to be ready to go whenever it's time to start here. And I mean, he's a scrappy little guy. He's the youngest of three brothers, and you throw my dad in the mix. I mean, he has to be the way he is, he's just this tough little dude.
Matt, he wants to be ready to go when the time comes, but so do you too. I'm fascinated by the world you're in. 12 years now in the National Football League you've had. You helped the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl. You were part of a Super Bowl winning team, and yet they make a business decision, re-sign Chad Henne. You're a free agent again. It seems like that's not the right kind of thanks for a guy. Without your win over the Vikings, you don't have home field. You probably don't get to the Super Bowl, but you've been in the league long enough. Is that just kind of, you weren't surprised by that, and now are you kind of waiting for the next best opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want it to go, or it doesn't go the way you think it'll go, and that's kind of just the world that we're in, and I understand that. And so yeah, I'm here now, and like we said the other day, if something pops up that's good and makes sense, maybe we'll go attack it. And if not, like I said, I'm full go in the home every day with the three kids doing the school and that whole thing. So life's good, man.
Jonathan, 3. He's got 3. You've got 3. So, any notes you could compare with Matt about how it's going with 3?
Yeah, I'm going to need some notes. I'll tell you that. We've had some real effort in the morning times, especially when school's trying to take place online, but it's been a work in progress in the Smith household.
When I'm looking, Scott, you and I are sitting here, look at these two guys here and think about their place in Oregon State football history. I mean, to have Jonathan back, a Fiesta Bowl MVP for the Beavers Fiesta Bowl win, Matt Moore, the Sun Bowl MVP in that incredible year in 2006. Just sitting in your position, Scott, just to see these two guys together, what they've meant to Oregon State football means a lot to you to have them on in this format together.
It's awesome. It's a lot about who we are. I mean, Matt, he's been connected to the program since he left in some form or another, and it's just he expressed sort of the feeling he has for this place, and Jonathan as well. He's got friends from the days he was here, and there's some people who could tell some real stories about Jonathan that are still around here, and but it's that's what's cool is this connection and love for this place, and it's fun. It is fun to see two of our very best so connected, right? Obviously, one's our head coach, but the other who's been around, and I've gotten to know Matt because he's been back to events. He wants to help. He wants to be involved, and that's unique. That's a little bit unique in college athletics these days. So always appreciated, and it's real. It's real.
Yeah, that's clear. Matt, the 06 game and the 06 season of this week, the Beaver Sports Classic, that's available right now on OSUBeavers.com. You can listen back to that October 28th day. What are your most vivid recollections? Everything okay, Coach?
Yeah, man, get texts, recruiting never ends.
No, good.
Recruiting never
Good.
ends.
No, and that's good. I'm glad it's been a good week. Matt, in terms of that game, the memories of that day, part of a special run you guys got on, but what sticks out the most about the USC day at Research?
Man, there's so many there's so many things. I think something we didn't hit on the other day when we spoke the night before, we kind of, Coach Riley hit us on the old tale of David and Goliath, which I get, it might be cliche in a situation like that, but it was so true and so real. And I think guys kind of took that approach and that mentality to take down, obviously, the Pac-10 giant in the Trojans. And I thought that was pretty neat, and just how guys bought in and respected the message, and then had it come and follow through with that approach, obviously on Saturday. But gosh, I mean, Clinton Polk stepping up and playing a huge role in that game. It was a shame we didn't have Evanson. I know he wanted to be out there, but I think he was a little banged up. The defense, I mean, the turnovers, Sammy Strotter being Sammy, making some huge plays, the punt return. Again, you can top it with him, but you go back and watch, as we all have, the blocks and how everything was. I mean, every dude was doing what he was supposed to do. The crowd, the fans, the energy, the electricity, it's like, it gives me goosebumps right now talking about it. That, to me, that day is like what college football is. And it doesn't get any better than that. It was an awesome day to be a part of.
Thank you for sharing that. October 28th, 2006. We have a question coming in on this format. I'll ask kind of Jonathan, Matt, both of you. The Beavers who've been drafted, Jake Luton, Isaiah Hodgins, Blake Brandel, those guys all have a shot. But Matt, you were an undrafted free agent. Here you are 12 years later in the league. So you somehow didn't take it. You made the most of being an undrafted guy. What about guys that do get drafted? When you think about Jake Luton and what you saw from him, and Isaiah Hodgins as a big-time receiver and target, Blake Brandel, who was one of the best protectors as a left tackle last year. What are your thoughts, Matt, just about that whole game that those guys are now in based on your experience?
Yeah, I think congratulations to those guys for being drafted and going to their teams. And I think it's still going to be a grind. You got to scratch and claw every day for what you want. At least that's the mentality I think you got to have. And those guys seem to have that. You're battling, you're fighting for a job every day. Every day there's somebody watching. Every day there's somebody trying to take your job. That's the reality of the NFL. But watching those guys at Oregon State, especially Jake and Isaiah, did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Just being the quarterback and receiver and watching those guys, you can see they kind of have the competitiveness. They have kind of the desire to go out there and play. Jake, he's had an awesome career. He's excelled and gotten better each year. And so it was kind of fun watching him.
Matt, you mentioned Jake and Isaiah. You threw a touchdown pass in that USC game to Joe Newton, a huge one, just right below Valley Football Center. I can see it vividly in my mind's eye. You threw another big one to Joe in the Sun Bowl just before the 2-point conversion that won it with Ev. But when I think about you, I think about you and Sammy. Quarterbacks can develop a chemistry, and you and Sammy in that 06 season. Tell us a little bit about how special that was and the big plays you guys made together.
Yeah, Sam, he's one of the best to play with, one of the best to be around. I can remember the year prior and in the off season going into my senior year, the work that he put in. Obviously, we both put in work together, but I remember we'd go out and throw routes in the indoor or whatever, and I would be done, and he's like, I'm still going. I'm still going. So in a way, he drove me and made me better because I was like, all right, I could throw 10, 20 more. We can do this. And I think all that stuff really paid off. And, I give Sammy a lot of credit. He's the one that kind of led that. He was just, at that point in his career, he was going. And it made everybody around him better, including me.
Matt, it is so good to talk to you again in this format. Thanks for a generous amount of your time here tonight and on the Beaver Sports Podcast. God bless you and your family, and thanks for taking time for us back here at Oregon State. We love you and miss you, but keep following you. Look forward to your next opportunity and look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate that, Mike. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you coming on, bro. We'll see you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jonathan, let me ask you, just as a quarterback in the relationship, Jake and Isaiah will be forever remembered as having that sense of one another, and Jake getting him the ball. You developed that in your own time at Oregon State with some special receivers. You've got a challenge now with both of them gone, right? I mean, it's the work, though, that Matt alluded to that leads to that kind of chemistry with your quarterbacks and receivers going forward.
Yeah, there's no question. You know, Jake and Hodge really worked at that and creating that as the year went on, of getting on the same page, and they were huge for us, and we got to replace them. And, you know, I'm confident we got some guys that got the capability to do it, and they're going to need to work at it, which, you know, from Tristan's in to even a couple of young quarterbacks we brought in. And we've got some receivers that can go, you know, and so they'll have to build that consistency with each other over time. And it's not something you can just turn on and turn off. They'll have to work at it, but confident that we can get to that point where we can be productive again, quarterback to receiver.
Scott, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about things I alluded to briefly, that you made a decision at Oregon State. When you talk about, you know, local decisions on an earlier topic, was each school, with respect to trying to grant eligibility relief to seniors who missed out on spring sports and their senior year, you made a decision that not everybody else was on board to make, but you made a decision which creates other issues in its own right. But tell us about the thinking behind you in granting that year with the same aid package available, and how our Beaver Nation has stepped up to help, but why you made that decision in the first place.
Well, Mike, it's just so core to who we are. Student athletes first, and those spring sports athletes had the rug pulled out from under them, and you saw that in real life, and so they deserve that opportunity. It was completely out of their control. That's why the NCAA granted that extended eligibility, and you know, we wanted to make it right, and we felt very confident in and we're seeing it, that Beaver Nation is stepping up to help those 14 or 15 student athletes who said, yes, we're coming back. We want the opportunity to have a senior year. And so, again, it just goes back to this little bit of the fiber of who we are as Oregon State Athletics, and that's student athletes first. It was a very easy decision to make. And yes, with it comes the challenges of managing the back end and some of the other pieces, but a no-brainer as far as I was concerned.
And there are still opportunities, even in these challenging times. I use the word, you can't avoid it, they're challenging times, but still opportunities for Beaver Nation and the efforts of our Beaver Nation reaching out to a lot of very generous souls about this issue to help, right, with that particular issue.
Yep. The Beaver Care Fund our development team has done a nice job of pushing out the information and making that available, and Beaver Nation is responding. So we appreciate that. It's going to make for a great next second senior year, if you will, for some of the student athletes that didn't get a complete this past year. So we appreciate all the support around that initiative.
Another bit of business, we mentioned the hiring of Chris Pendleton, but Aaron Escobar has joined the staff, hired on April 28th, to lead athletic fundraising. That's an important task, anytime, any place, anywhere. Tell us what attracted you to Aaron Escobar.
Well, you know, Aaron brings, and when I introduced him to our coaches the other day, I said this, probably more experience to that position we've ever had in the seat. And a familiarity with Oregon State, having been in the foundation for over a decade, ultra successful, not only in fundraising, but in leadership. And so actually came to Oregon State as a student because of athletics. He wasn't a student athlete, but he was a fan. So he's got a great passion for it as well. He'll make us better. And already in just a couple of weeks that he's been on board, we're seeing that. So we're really super excited about Aaron, and super excited about Chris. We hired Chris and made the decision and called him on the phone and said, looking forward to seeing you. I literally saw him for the first time live yesterday.
Wow.
He poked his head in my office while I was running a Zoom and caught up with him on the phone after. That was literally the first time I'd ever seen him in person. Went through the entire hiring process, new times for sure.
And Jonathan, in that respect, you are trying to conduct as coaches, when you would be having a period of time with unofficial visits and a lot of things going on. I know we can't speak to specifics per se, but your whole goal of bringing this beautiful campus to the young men that you're recruiting to the program, you continue to do that, and it's what you have to do. And yet it sounds like in some way, shape, or form, you're still getting your message out in a very creative way, and it's being well received.
Yeah, I feel like we got some real momentum going with it, and it is different because these guys oftentimes would be able to visit our place through really April, May, and June. And so we've kind of flipped the script and tried to bring Corvallis to them different ways. I think our social media department's been huge, not just with football, but in the athletics in general, to helping us out with that. And then our coaches being creative of getting on FaceTime tours of campus and Zoom meetings with not just coaches, but our academic department, strength conditioning, our Beyond Football program. And so we felt good on how we've gone about it and learning through this time. But we've got some real momentum and feel good about the players we're attracting.
Our last few minutes together, gentlemen, and thank you for making so much time for us in this first stop on the virtual Beaver State Tour. Scott, I did want to ask you about what we're reading a lot about other than COVID-19, but it's NIL, name, image, likeness, and what direction that may be going in terms of that availability to student athletes. What can you tell us from your perspective, where we are now, how you see that, how big of an issue that is?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. We could spend a whole show on it, but maybe the condensed version is the name, image, and likeness working group, the NSA working group, has come out with some concepts, as has the A5 conference commissioners. This is an initiative, if you will, that needs to be, never my career in athletics, what I've said, that what I have thought I would say, that it needs to be directed by the federal government, but it does. It creates some antitrust safeguards as well. But federal legislation is coming. Many know that almost every state has their own state legislation. This can't be solved at the state level. It has to be solved at the national level. Thus, federal legislation implemented by the NCAA would be the perfect way to do this. What are some of the concepts? Really, what we're trying to do is provide opportunities for student athletes that general students have, using their name, image, and likeness to start a business, to create endorsement opportunities, to do things that they haven't been able to do previously, and to do it in the confines of some guardrails put up by the NCAA. There's a fine line between paying a student athlete or a student athlete receiving revenue for their name, image, and likeness, and actually playing for pay. Two different things. We're not moving down the pay for play lane. What we are opening up is opportunities for student athletes to earn revenue, start a business, use their name to create some opportunities that they haven't had digitally or otherwise. And I think we've made some progress in being able to do that. There's a lot of devils in the detail to this. Again, I'll get on a podcast with you and we'll drill this down, but it is moving. There's hope that legislation could be crafted prior to the end of the year. That's an aggressive time pursuit. But when you think about it and you think that state legislation is actually in effect as early as 21, we've got to get to this sooner than later so that we can handle this on a national level.
Thank you, Scott. Last thing for you, Jonathan, and that's a big one right there. But in the meantime, you are building a program where whatever those issues may be, you identify people that want to be at Oregon State and want to be part of this community and this culture. So I don't know how that big issue is going to look, but it probably won't effectively change what you do in terms of the type of people you want to bring in and build in your program.
Right. We're always looking for the right fit and the perfect fit because we've got a great place. And, it's already been mentioned here today. It starts with the people that are here. And from the administration to coaches to players to students, it's just filled with great people. And that's what we want to fill our roster with and our locker room with some great guys. So we're continually to chase them. I think our message and vision for the place is resonating with a lot of different, high school athletes across the country for that matter. And we're excited about the momentum we have and anxious to get back this fall and show the next step we were able to make.
We are anxious indeed. Scott, I want to close with a thought about in our only opportunity together on this state tour. Dr. Ed Ray outgoing, King Alexander coming in. I know we could do a whole podcast on that too, but just a final thing about Dr. Ray and your appreciation of him, but how excited you are about the new era with King.
Really excited. Be sorry to see Ed go. What a legacy he's left, and now the new president takes the reins, and what we have in King Alexander is a former collegiate student athlete who absolutely understands the value of a vibrant, successful athletic program and what it can do to advance the mission of the university. He's all in on that, so really looking forward to partnering with him beginning July 1.
Scott, thank you for being here tonight and helping me experience Zoom for the first time in my life. I don't think I could have done it without you. Thank you. Jonathan, thank you, Coach. Great to see you again. We'll be seeing you in person, I hope, one of these days, too. Thanks for taking time, gentlemen. We appreciate it.
Well, if we could just let's want to thank Beaver Nation for being on. Hang in there. We'll get through this together. We'll be better coming out the other side. We feel the momentum and your interest. The renewal rates are at a rate they haven't been at in football for over 5 years. Keep it coming. We'll get there together, and I can't wait to see you this fall. Thank you.
Coach, final word from you, I'm sure is similar, but Jonathan, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, very similar. Just appreciate everybody as we all go through this and just continue to feel the appreciation for so many out there that are doing so many great things. And we're excited as we move forward. Uncertain when that exact date to start is, but I know I'm excited when that start date comes.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. You see on your screen, the virtual Beaver State Tour continues with the next stop coming up next Monday, May 11th, with Wayne Tinkle, Don Shockley, and John Rehorn. You can get all of the details right here on all of the future dates, but we've got one under our belt, and it was Zoom was okay. It's a whole new world for me. Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. We'll talk to you again in the next edition, Monday at 5 o'clock. Go Beavs, and thanks for joining us on the virtual Beaver State Tour. So long, everybody.